given recent media reports that the Public Health Agency of Canada lost over $300 million on an unfulfilled contract, the committee undertake a study of the Public Health Agency of Canada losing over $300 million in taxpayers' money for an unfulfilled contract.
I'd like to actually move the motion that we delete the following. That given recent media reports that the Public Health Agency of Canada lost over $300 million on an unfulfilled contract, the committee undertake a study of the Public Agency of Canada losing over $300 million taxpayer money for an unfulfilled contract and replace it with the following.
This guy's garage. Like and subscribe.
As agreed on Monday, we are resuming debate on the motion of Dr. Ellis. You will recall that that motion was the subject of an amendment put forward by Dr. Hanley and then a sub-amendment by Dr. Ellis. So technically the debate right now is on the sub-amendment of Dr. Ellis. If anyone needs the motion, the amendment, or the sub-amendment to be read, just say so.
Yes, please.
Okay. The main motion from Dr. Ellis, that given recent media reports that the Public Health Agency of Canada lost over $300 million on an unfulfilled contract, the committee undertake a study of the Public Health Agency of Canada losing over $300 million in taxpayers' money for an unfulfilled contract. The committee holds 6 hours of meetings on this matter, and that each current meeting of the Health Committee is expanded by 1 hour to address this matter, and that the committee hear from the Minister of Health, the Parliamentary Budget Officer, the President of the Public Health Agency of Canada, the President of the Treasury Board, and officials from the Health Ministry and other witnesses deemed relevant by the committee, and that the hearings begin at the next available meeting, and that the committee produce a report on its findings and report it to the House. So that was the original motion. There was then an amendment put forward by Dr. Hanley, which was that the motion be amended by replacing the words after the words unfulfilled contract, comma, the committee, with the following, open quote, hold 4 hours of meetings on the government's advanced purchase agreement for vaccines with Medicago and invite officials from the Public Health Agency of Canada, Public Services and Procurement Canada, the Auditor General, and Medicago, close quote. That was the amendment, and there was then a sub-amendment, which is the subject of our debate this evening. The sub-amendment is as follows, that the amendment be amended by adding after the word hold the words up to, and by adding after the word invite the words the Minister of Health and. So that is what is before us. That's where we left off. All those in favor of the sub-amendment, please raise your hand. The sub-amendment is adopted. The debate is now on the amendment as amended. Is there any discussion on the amendment as amended? Is everyone clear what we're talking about? Go ahead, Mr. Perkins.
It seems to me there's at least two flaws in this process. The first flaw is that there wasn't any protection of Canadian taxpayers when $200 million was committed in a contract to develop the vaccine in the first place. No issues around the taxpayer claim on the patents if something went south, that somehow as the financier of this, that we either through university-owned patents, through the rights of the granting councils, through the SIFT program, or whichever ISED program paid for this, because I believe the money came out of ISED, that we were so poor, obviously, at negotiating contracts that we didn't get an ownership stake in that, or any protection for the taxpayer if, for some example, as they must have known going in, that it would have trouble being marketed because of the Philip Morris ownership, that there wasn't some protection for the taxpayer from that company in the contract that either gave us the money back from Philip Morris and Mitsubishi for the investment, or had, in the case of the situation that arose, the fact that the taxpayer would actually own the patents, and so that it couldn't leave this country and couldn't be sold by a foreign multinational. But it appears that's the situation we're in. But if that wasn't bad enough, obviously the cancellation clauses were clearly non-existent in the contract to actually buy the $76 million, or 76 million doses of the vaccine that were never produced, because we now are on the hook for another $150 million for something that was never made. Thin air, vapor, nothing. $150 million for not even an empty vial. So $200 million into developing the vaccine, $150 million for absolutely nothing, 400 people in Quebec City out of work, and Mitsubishi gets to walk away with all the patents and all of the potential to sell that for the small price of a few $1 million buying out Philip Morris. That's the way it appears. Maybe that's not the case. Maybe the witnesses could actually shed some light onto these contracts. Maybe officials could explain to us why they signed contracts that appear to leave the Canadian taxpayer with nothing, with absolutely nothing but the bill, and leave a Japanese company with an innovative Canadian patented technology. And again, because we don't have the ability to do this in finance, we would like to get this committee, or I should say in industry, we would like to get this committee to examine these things. And that's why I think Dr. Ellis put forward the motion in the first place. And I would urge that our committee members not only vote on the amendment as amended. I guess I think we need probably not to limit ourselves. Personally, I wouldn't limit ourselves to 4 meetings or 6 meetings. I think you got to follow the evidence and then get to the main motion so that the committee gets this on the agenda. So that's my opening. I'll leave it at that for members to consider. But the numbers add up to quite a large loss to the Canadian taxpayer. To me, it's a bit of a scandal. I hope it's not. I hope we can actually get those patents back. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Is there any further debate on the amendment? Seeing none, are we ready for the question? So the amendment as amended is that the motion be amended by replacing the words after the words unfulfilled contract, the committee with hold up to 4 hours of meetings on the government's advanced purchase agreement for vaccines with Medicago, and invite the Minister of Health and officials from the Public Health Agency of Canada, Public Services and Procurement Canada, the Auditor General, and Medicago. All those in favor of the amendment, please raise your hands. All those opposed, the amendment is carried.
I'd like to actually move the motion that we delete the following: that given recent media reports that the Public Health Agency of Canada lost over $300 million on an unfulfilled contract, the committee undertake a study of the Public Agency of Canada losing over $300 million taxpayer money for an unfulfilled contract, and replace it with the following: that the committee study the vaccine advance purchase agreement with Medicago, that the committee hold up to 4 hours of meeting on the government advance purchase agreement for vaccine with Medicago, and invite the Minister of Health and the rest of all these sub-amendments that we've done. It's just that preamble, I believe, is not representing the evidence that was talked. I don't want to talk about facts because we don't have facts, but the evidence that's before us, and you clearly, pointed all of them out, I think is not fairly represented in the preamble. So I think the preamble, I move that the preamble be removed and it be replaced with the committee studied the vaccine advance purchase agreement with Medicago, and the rest is as it was amended.
Well, thank you very much, Chair. You know, I think it's clear to everyone on this side that this is an attempt at a gross and negligent cover-up by our Liberal colleagues. Sadly, you know what? We all know on this side that $300 million of taxpayers' money was wasted and, again, was hidden deep in a document that I brought last time of about 4 inches thick, somewhere around 3/4 of the way through it in font of about 6 or 8. And this smells of exactly the same ilk. And Canadian taxpayers can no longer stand for this. The sunny ways and transparency of this Liberal government have gone long and far and deep into some dark, dank cave. The sadness that that brings for taxpayers who today suffer with the inability to feed themselves, keep a roof over their heads, and pay for home heating fuel is evident to everyone here. Everyone who has constituents who lives in some part of this country that it soon will be very cold, colder in some places than other, and we know that perhaps other than for Mr. Davies, the rest of us will be very cold this winter. That being said, losing $300 million and then trying to hide $150 million of that, and now trying to limit the study such that the scope of it will be incredibly narrow, once again, is just a method to lose transparency, which is the spirit of what we were trying to get to here in this committee. And that is something that we are all here to do as representatives of Canadians. And I know that every Liberal member on that side of the House is faced with constituents having affordability problems. Why do I know that? Mostly because we hear that when we're not sitting here in public meetings. We hear that that their constituents too are also suffering, whether they want to admit that in public or not. We know that the potential for flip-flop with respect to that from our Liberal colleagues is very, very significant. So we on this side will not stand for the deletion and limitation of this study. And once again, as I made the plea to our committee members before, there is significant amount of work that needs to be gotten to by this committee. We know that Mr. Davies has a women's study, which he's made it very clear has not been studied in this committee for decades, and it is something that we need to get to. And these tactics that we now see trying to cover up $150 million and also trying to limit the scope of the study as to where the money went and how it was lost in such an incredible fashion, again, are intolerable over here. So to hear our colleagues wanting to, once again, limit this study is intolerable, and it's also impeding the work of this committee moving forward on important topics, as I said, such as the women's health study, such as the opioid study, such as finishing the study on breast implants and the children's health study, et cetera. So I would invite my Liberal colleague to withdraw his motion, and we could then vote on this and get to the important work of the committee, which we know we have to get to as soon as possible. Thank you, Chair.
There are no further speakers on the list. Are we ready for the question? Okay, so what is before the committee is this, that the motion be amended to delete the words, given recent media reports that the Public Health Agency of Canada lost over $300 million on non-fulfilled contract. All those in favor of the amendment, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the motion is, or the amendment is defeated. Is it the will of the committee to entertain another amendment with respect to the identity of Medicago/Mitsubishi? Mr. Davies.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I would add at the very end of the motion where it says "and Medicago," perhaps we could put I don't know if you want to put slash Mitsubishi Chemical Group, or if it's better to say the Auditor General, Medicago, and Mitsubishi Chemical Group.
Yeah.
It's probably better to do the latter.
Okay,
So I would put a comma after Auditor General, remove the and, say Medicago, and then and Mitsubishi Chemical Group, period.
everybody clear on the amendment? Is there any further discussion? All those in favor of the amendment? It's unanimous. The amendment is adopted. We are now on to the main motion as amended. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion as amended, hands please. All those in favor, all those opposed? The motion as amended is carried. The motion. All right, colleagues.